Episode 1, guys. This is episode 1 of 2. I'll make another one in 6 months. Croncy in the jungle. You know what? I can turn that more. Careful this leaf. There we go. Now it's not completely in my way. Croncy Conversation Corner. So I've been wanting to make a video for the past like 2 weeks. Really weak. There's been so Jumptown, Siege of Orison, it's over. Siege of Orison was a lot of fun. Jumptown was a lot of fun. The biggest thing that's happened over the last like 2 weeks, and then with this patch, is the server cap increase, which has meant that these events have had a lot more people in them, which has been mostly good. Siege of Orison with a bit less, so it wasn't as relevant. Jumptown with a lot. Having 100 people able to be doing Jumptown, very cool. Because it also means you have multiple parties, you have multiple groups of people. Like 20 v20s were happening during Jumptown. However, there has been a really big issue that has become compounded. There's an issue that's been compounded by these larger server caps. So we've always had trolls in Star Citizen. This is not new. It's always been a thing. There's always been trolls. But having 50-player server caps has meant that you would not encounter them frequently unless you were US servers, honestly. It has become such an issue now. Every single general chat and every single server I'm in now, constantly full of trolls, constantly full of toxic behavior. It is actually terrible. It doesn't mean the community itself has been getting worse, but what happens, and this is mostly what's concerning me, what happens when you have a lot of people together and they see the toxic behavior is you have players start to emulate that. We've seen it in games for 20 years. The more toxic a community is allowed to be, the more people start following along that line. People that would normally not be toxic at all. And right now, there's just literally no moderation tools at all. Which is really weird as a thing. Because, like, strangely enough, CRG have shown, like, they will... like if you screenshot and send it to CRG, they are brutal. They will outright ban that person and whatnot. But that's not practical. That's not practical at all. And so, like, I know that CRG probably want to do moderation tools, and it's probably, I mean, of course they want to do moderation tools, but it's a thing that's, you have to do it right now. If you don't do it right now, the community will continue to become more toxic. And it'll never end. It'll compound. It'll get worse and worse and worse. F12ing isn't an option, and that's because of these new dynamic events. Because we have Siege of Orison, because we have Jumptown, and when we get Xeno Threat back, when we get Ninetales back, communication is extremely important in those events. Communication in Star Citizen is extremely important. Saying just F12, which is what most people say, it's literally not an option. It's too important to have to actually talk to the other players in the server. And like, it doesn't have to be like a reporting system necessarily. It has to be, at the very least, a muting system. If I can just mute someone, cool, right? I can still communicate with everyone else with no issue. Because there's also, like, yeah, if someone's being like just outright racist or like if they're breaking some sort of TOS, then yeah, like they should get banned and whatever. And like most people will go through the effort of doing the huge, contact CRG, here's some screenshots, get him out of here. But it's not necessarily those players that are the ones that are actually causing issues. And I want to point out something. Exactly, Hazelnut. Yeah, the more toxic they let the community get, the more people who don't like it go find something else to do. Exactly, 100%. Keyword filter be nice, yeah. But it's not just those things either. Like this isn't just coming from like the toxicity thing, isn't just coming from trolls. It's sort of like my second half of it. The teaching new players how the game actually works is like, and the fact that we don't really have a proper system there is also making the community more toxic. Fair enough, Voodoo. The amount of people during, for example, Jumptown, who are unironically saying, like, is Jumptown safe? Why did you kill me? You're a griefer, is becoming also much more of an issue. We have so many new players coming into the game recently, which overall is great, right? Overall, that's fantastic. But this is only going to ramp up. The amount of new players that are coming into the game and don't have a accurate portrayal of what the game is currently. Like, I'm not talking about what it is in the future. I'm talking about what it is currently, what is currently allowed for players to do in terms of PvP. New players don't understand it at all. To the point that, like I said, yep, Jumptown, they have no idea that that's a PvP event, and they think that anyone doing PvP there, they're toxic, they're a griefer. That behavior itself is extremely toxic, and it's going to be really, really concerned about the state of the community. Yeah. So it's not just like there is 100% griefing that still happens in the game, but I would say that the actual griefing of, like pad ramming, I don't think that that's increased, and that's probably likely to the fact that, Port Olisar is no longer as central of a meeting place as it used to be. So people are much more spread out. We now have hangars everywhere, so it's much harder for you to, target someone to actually like pad ram. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's significantly harder than it used to be. So those sort of behaviors, I feel like are actually getting better. Like people aren't doing that. But now there's just this huge push of any PvP is the worst thing to happen in the game. And I hate it, and you're the worst, and you shouldn't be doing PvP. I can't believe you killed me. And it's really bad. And it's one of those things that, like, obviously this is a thing that's much harder for CRG to fix. And I think is honestly a lot more on some like creators' onus of you should be making sure the community does know, like all these new players when they come in do know what they're getting into, right? Because when they expect it, it's nowhere near as much of an issue. You'll see people talk about like, I was doing a trade run. I went through the trade run. I got interdicted by some players, or like got caught off by some players somehow. Maybe you're on an ROC and you got caught off by some players. They killed me, and like they're griefers, and I can't believe they did that. So anyway, I did the exact same thing again, and it happened again. Of course it did. Like, what are you talking about? It's at first when you hear about these stories, you're kind of like, well, that's your fault, and you're a bad player. But there's no one actually giving you the information of how to avoid these things in the game if you wish to avoid it, right? Like, cool, don't mine in that location while you know that there's some active PvP players there, right? Like, if you want to avoid that. Or if you're doing a trade run, cool, maybe, just take a longer quantum jump so that you're coming in from a different angle and they can't interdict you, right? Very easily avoidable, but you need to know that that's an option. Because you have to treat all players as knowing literally nothing. But it's becoming an issue. It's making the community more toxic. So, yeah. Let's have a look at chat. That system currently gives players zero directions on how to play and does not promote any kind of activity that's conducive to good community building. I agree. I agree. And that is one of the things, once again, that like CRG... and I'm hoping it sort of happens when we get these new player environment things that they're talking about, where you'll actually like learn a bit more at your home location. But it's such a long way off that it's like there has to be something you can do now. I think people are just not used to PvPvE. I feel like people lash out because things like JT get talked up as being these money-making events, and when they turn out to have a danger element and they lose things, they lash out. Yeah, I think that is true. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it's bad behavior that can be fixed, right? Because yeah, they hear about people talking about a money-making event, and then that's all they hear, right? Does it have the new player guild hub? The new player guild hub is trash. No, new players don't know about it. Like the whole, so we had the I think it was last month, right? We had like the new player guide thingy that was happening where everyone was getting bonuses and stuff. And it was good. It was a big uptick in people doing guides and people were learning stuff. But no one knows about it. The guide system, it's hidden terribly. New players don't know what it means because it's a very weird thing to be like, in order to help you play the game, we're going to give you someone to guide you. And while I reckon that is one of the best ways to learn how to play the game, when it comes from CRG themselves, I think for a new player who hasn't played a game like Star Citizen, that's extremely strange. And so they just sort of, they put it off. You know what I mean? The more clear indicator who is friendly: blue for law-abiding citizens and known bounty hunters, red for known criminals, dark red for those who have corrupt stat. A better identity system is 100% warranted. And I do hope it's a thing that pops up sooner rather than later. But I think that that's also the kind of thing where that's a whiles away, you know, because that's a big system to implement. But yeah, there's definitely elements of that would work. Outside of the Foundation Festival, it's very hard to actually find or even know about the guide system in a new player. 100%. Exactly. Xenothreat is the only event that I would consider that has successfully done good community building. Yeah. But even then, like, we haven't seen Xenothreat for a while. I think the last time we had Xenothreat was in January, which also means we're likely to get it again soon. And Xenothreat, amazing event, really well done. Very good for people working together and that sort of thing, but you would once again in Xenothreat have this issue of people would come do PvP as they are allowed to do, right? The game allows you to do that. That is 100% fine. And people would lose their minds. People would absolutely freak out because this isn't a PvP event. It's a PvE event. And it's not, once again, it's not a slight to those people. I think they're just misinformed. You know, I think they are just, they don't know that that's a thing. And they don't know how to avoid those situations. I feel like there needs to be safe space where there is plenty of moons that are heavily guarded. That is supposed to be a thing. Stanton is supposed to be one of the more heavily guarded areas. But right now, the NPC response is incredibly slow. If they had something akin to EVE Online, where the really high security areas, the NPCs rocked up like hella quick, like 20-30 seconds, I don't think that would be as much of an issue. But I also think that that's something that's likely to be a balancing issue for the future. So that it's an interesting one. I agree with you, but it's I don't know if that's a thing that you can implement now, you know. I'll make an effort to bring the guide system to the Moby-Glass so it's more like a regular mission. Yeah, 100%. It has to be in game. That's a big thing. The new players are not really learning unless they are unless they are actively doing guides, which I would say if you're watching YouTube and you're watching streams, when you're first learning how to play, you are doing the guide system, just not officially, you know. If it was in game, it'd be so much better. They want to play space game and just chill out, don't want to experience PvP. CRG needs to give those players the ability to experience that. At the moment, because we are still stuck in just standard players who don't want to PvP, aren't given an environment to avoid said PvP. I disagree. I think it is very easy to avoid PvP. But once again, this is sort of the crux of it. I think it's extremely easy to avoid PvP, but players don't know how. Right? It is not well known how to avoid PvP. Yeah, but it's also, I think there's a little bit of an entitlement with players that don't want to experience PvP, which usually I'm one of those players. I enjoy PvP occasionally. Like, you guys see me. I do it maybe once every 2 months. I might get into like a PvP feel. But I'm terrible at it, right? So I avoid it, right? Like, I don't expect to go to Grimhex and survive. And I shouldn't. I shouldn't expect to go to Grimhex and survive. And that should be a thing that new players know about. There's also I've seen this one's a bit more sparingly, but I have seen some complaints about things like the breach and clear mission, or playing the criminal delivery missions, or doing the bad side of Ninetales. There is a large section of people that seem to have like FOMO about those things because they don't want to participate in PvP, but they want to do all the cool things. Like, I get that you want to do all the cool things, but if you don't want to participate in PvP, if you don't want to do criminal stuff, it's just not open to you. If you don't want to do mining because it's tedious, then you don't get to experience what it's like to own an Orion and do the mining. Like, there are elements of the game that will be cut off to you depending on what you want to do, and it's too bad, unfortunately. Like, games like that exist all the time, and you kind of just have to deal because it's the way that it is. If it wasn't like that, the game would be significantly less fun, even for the people that want to do those activities. Cryo system does the game no favors with there being a great difficulty with self-defense during events. How can you shoot the attack without getting a crime stat and being forced from the event? Yeah, I will say they do need to... I think the CIG do need to do, just in general, is fix up the crime system from like many different levels. But it's also awkward. So we did used to originally have, like, you would immediately get crime stat if you accidentally shot someone in Xenothreat. They then fixed that, which was great for Xenothreat, but bad for like everything else. It was like, sick, this is great for Xenothreat, I'm not accidentally getting crime stat all the time. But now it meant that, like, if someone shoots you, you shoot back, you still end up getting crime stat, right? Yeah, that needs to be fixed. Just like straight up needs to be fixed. But I don't have the answer, so it's probably more convoluted. Not be surprised that the moment you jump to the more UE secured systems where you have a crime stat, Javelin might be waiting for you. 100%, but it is important to note that in the lore, at least, Stanton is supposed to be one of the most secure UE systems. Not because they have UE security, it's because they have their private security, but lore-wise, it's supposed to be very secure. So, like, Stanton being the level it is right now might be an issue. We could see, and I wouldn't be surprised if when Pyro does come out, because this might be the best way to do it, you do make Stanton a lot more secure from a gameplay perspective, and you make these, you make it a lot harder to commit crimes there, and you're basically free reigning in Pyro, right? So that could be the case, and that could completely change the dynamic, but I think it's an issue right now. So 100% reporting bugs and reporting P-push being game. Yep. Think good ways for these events to have PvP is similar to Ninetales Lockdown. You have 2 quests that are acceptable and have players on 2 teams, good, bad. Jumptown have a more verse setup to promote PvP and be able to pick a side. 100%. Sort of on that, I was really surprised that Siege of Orison didn't have a PvP quest. That was really strange to me. It's not really relevant, super relevant to the conversation, but it was really weird to me they didn't have like a, you know, kill as many players as you can, kind of like you do with the Ninetales Lockdown. So that was kind of strange, but anyway. Wonder what the right balance is for accidental shooting versus intentionally shooting another player. I think we've kind of talked about it on stream before. I think the best way to implement that sort of stuff is reputation. You know, like implementing a reputation system where if someone has been committing lots of crimes, they get crime stat faster or something after committing a crime, or instead of turning red, yeah, they just like immediately get crime stat, something like that, is probably, or at least I think that wouldn't be too bad of a fix, but also once again, I could be 1,000,000,000% wrong. Bro, I need to clean the front of my fans on my computer. Just decide. I never look at the front of my computer, but I've got it from this angle and it's bad. It will for sure, Geos. Yeah, so the game is done. It'll have more systems. It'll be a different story in PvP. But it's an issue now. And that matters because we are seeing more players enter the game than ever. We are seeing huge growth in terms of sales and whatnot. So like, I think PvP is good and whatever. It needs some fixes, but the complaints about PvP are becoming just insane. Like people are complaining about really, really dumb things PvP wise and saying it is impossible. How can I do this? They're camping me. It's like, they're not camping. You can do this. Blah blah blah. If Pyro comes, can we please get almost no interdiction events in Stanton? I need my toilet break. Stanton is corporate territory and disputed as to who holds responsibility for security. There is no gray area safety-wise. Think more of the banning message recently. Security exists in Stanton but can be relied upon. I have heard the opposite. So I may be incorrect there. But I have heard the opposite. It's like, yeah, they are corporate territory and they don't rely on the UEE for safety. But the organizations that they do hire tend to be, well, you know, they're profit driven. Anytime it's profit driven, they'll go to the ends and back. But yeah, I might be mistaken there. Hey there, Jericho. I've only seen PvP and SC when I've gone looking for it. That may be the case for you, but yeah, I myself don't experience it much, but because I'm already, you know, I'm subconsciously trying to avoid PvP a lot of the time. But I'm constantly hearing in global chat, in Reddit, in Twitter, on Spectrum, everywhere. And I know none of those places are necessarily reliable, and a lot of the time it's the smaller people speaking louder. But it seems like there's more and more of that happening, especially in the last few weeks. Lots of Europeans buying into the game since ideal payment is there. I don't know what that is. I like this conversation format. You guys like this? This is cool. Sit next to Clancy. Most people just want things to be easy. There's so many people asking for money on chat when they can just do missions for cash. You'll always have beggars, but that also does, once again, bring into this thing of the larger server caps are meaning that the need for moderation tools is becoming much more necessary. Because as someone else said earlier in the chat, it only takes one person to ruin a server. And now there's less servers. You know what I mean? Like those people aren't spread out as much as they were before. And that often breeds more toxicity. So becomes a big problem. What do we need to do to give the Raven back the additional 2 guns it originally had? You need to sacrifice Chris Roberts. That's how. But yeah, that's kind of my 2 things, mostly. What does the plant think of Hurston's destruction of basically all plant life? Clancy? Shit, I didn't know. Okay. Jesus. Don't ask Clancy a thing again. Noticed a week ago, there were a lot of new players. They flew out just shot random at other people, and of course, some returned fire and could actually fight. After that, they were crying that they were shot. I mean, yeah. And that's, once again, that's the thing. It's not necessarily you are a bad person. You know what I mean? It's more of, it feels like it's more of a misinformation thing. And so they just like, it's once again bringing more attention to, we need to be teaching players better. And I think that specifically is really hard for CIG to talk to new players about, but it's very easy for content creators to talk to new players about when they should be doing, or at least making a more conscious effort to do when they do make content. Jumptown videos on YouTube brought in a lot of players that enjoy PvP, and when the event ended, we had a lot of new people looking to keep that high going from mining salt. Also, the nice folks in the verse that try to help are probably getting a bit of exhaustion of explaining how to avoid PvP over and over. 100%. Yeah. I try to teach people as much as I can, but even I get a bit exhausted by it, especially when it's like the 7th time in a day that you had to explain to someone, like during JT. So the 7th time during the day you've had to explain to someone, it's like, no, it's a PvP. Well, like, it's not even that it's a PvP event. This game has PvP enabled, right? By default. And so anytime there's a place to capture, people are going to do PvP. They don't care if you're friendly. If you're friendly, that's more of the profit share they've got to give to someone else, right? That's sort of the base concept of it. So of course they're going to participate in PvP. Changing 90 name to server ruiner. UE has responsibility for space in between the planets, and the corporate security forces are only really concerned with the safety of their clients. The UE feels that the corporates aren't putting their weight toward allies of the forces. All right. Looks like I have some reading up to do. The easiest way to fix JT is for content creators to let new people know that it's PvP in JT how-to videos, and a warning that there's a PvP event in servers before joining the game, like a pop-up after hitting launch. That would unironically be okay-ish. I don't know if it'd be a pop-up. Pop-up would kind of suck. Like, pop-up would be bad user experience. But like, if CRG did make a more deliberate effort, like they do a pretty good job at going like, here's the dynamic events they're out, and then advertising them. But if they made a more deliberate effort to be like, here's Jumptown, you'll get shot. You reader right now, you will get shot. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that'd probably be a very easy thing that CRG could do just to make a small improvement. Usually I avoid PvP myself, but some guy shot me while I was in the Vanguard as I wanted to do PvE. He was in Gladys, and I was like, okay, sure. Like, yeah, if PvP happens to you, it's fine. And the biggest issue, like the issue that I'm sort of hitting on, is that too many people in the community are considering regular PvP as griefing and saying you're a bad person for doing PvP. And then that breeds more toxicity, because that PvP player will then probably start goading them, right? And then it's just shitty and awkward, and no one feels good at the end of it. I think they need to change the message as you leave Armistice. That'd be good, actually, yeah. Something like that. Been playing since Invictus this year, and I love the game. I've had some pretty awful experience during Invictus with griefers forcing crime set onto me, and me not understanding what was happening, losing everything. I managed to accrue to that point. Beyond that, it's been fine. Even during the blockades in JT, I've found players pretty chill on the other servers, and I was a totally... Sorry. Bruh, America is messed up. Yeah, so a lot of that... There is obviously griefing. I'm not saying there's not griefing that exists, but I would say that griefing is much less common of a thing than it used to be. But we used to have a huge griefing problem for a couple of patches. But yeah, sort of the thing, right? Of like, yeah, you didn't know what to do, right? As you learn the stuff, cool. Like, it becomes fine and all that. But yeah, as we've had just so many people join the game, we've had so many like uninformed players come into the game that just don't know what these things are about, creates toxicity. Everyone hates Crusader for letting Ninetales do their thing, while Crusader wants to force the other course to put their money and lives down for it. Yeah, true. Rip Crusader. If you look at the threat heat map on the Arc star map, you can see the stand is pretty red. I'm not surprised with Ninetales. Hello. This is fun. I like Croncy's corner conversation. But I need to fix up my camera house somehow. I need to like mess around with it. I do need my own chair. This is Spark's chair, but it's a very fancy chair. So I stole it. I'm going to give it back to her after stream. You going to bed? Yeah. Pretty. Very pretty. What? It's just cordial. Spiky. Spiky beard. Alright, have a good sleep. See you in the morning. Why? Because I'm talking loud? Oh, you just... Yep. Do I want another plant? Not right now. I need it... No, that's the thing. I need to, like, fix the camera position and stuff. Right? Like, I need the chair to actually be, like, right in the corner and... I'll figure it out if we do a second Croncy's conversation corner. Alright. Croncy's an idiot. True. No. Finally updating my PC so I can get in again. Finally glad to be here to see what's up. If it was a clippy pop-up, I wouldn't be mad. True. Wouldn't be too bad. Oh, your weird thumb. As servers get chunkier, I think the small outposts with a single entry exit are no longer fit for purpose. Especially when events like Jumptown expect large amounts of players to populate the area. Can't wait to see proper complexes, a little which can be seen in the cloning outposts. Yeah, I feel like there's almost no way Jumptown doesn't get a second entry exit, right? On honestly probably by the time Jumptown rolls around again, I would say. Because level design wise, I think Jumptown's amazing. But having only the one entry exit makes it kind of boring. It means like trying to take over it FPS wise just sucks. It's like it's just not fun. A combat zone message when going to Jumptown might be a nice warning. True. Combat zone would be kind of cool, actually. Having like a similar to how you have your armistice zone or your like comm link established. This corner, but it'd be hidden by the chat. It'd be hidden by the chat. Leave it for now.
Put it in the damn corner.
No. I fucking can't. Oh my god. Chat, she's doing interior design. One sec. Talks amongst yourselves.
Yeah, you can get plant ASMR.
They said I need a fireplace.
You need a fireplace.
Okay, that actually looks pretty dope, not gonna lie. That looks pretty sick. And that helped the lighting. Because it's covering it. So now I'm actually lit up way better. Bruh.
Wow.
Chat, you know why I married her? It's her interior design skills. And that's it. Yeah, it's covered by chat. It'll be from the mud or whatever. It's covered by chat, but it's like, it does look better. Anywho. The yellow one. All right. Oh, thank you, whoever followed. I didn't see that. Sorry. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, where was I? If you force a PvP encounter on me, I absolutely have the right to run as I would in real life. 100%. 1000%. But that's the thing. A lot of new players don't run as well. And then they complain. You know what I mean? More lore stuff. Man, we got a hella lore conversation going on. I was wrong about a lore thing. Now 3 people are like, yeah, this is a cool lore thing. And they're like, oh, their own conversations. Great. Good times. I think leaving Armistice should be like walking into the Wildy in RuneScape. Bruh. I don't think that should be the case, but I think the notice should be more obvious. The fact that Jumptown didn't have a second entry exit at the get-go is stupid. There should be a lot more sprawl. It's a terrible FPS level location design. Yeah, it's pretty. Also, chat. There's a kind of chair I want to get. I just haven't been able to get yet. For literally this. Like, I wanted a chair here anyway. My wife is amazing. I agree. She go all right. FPS for... Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's the kind of chair I want. I want a mustard yellow chair to put here. FPS for JT is just hope the guy inside does not have a grenade launcher. Good night. Have a good sleep. What? Oh, yeah. We can get a chair goal. True. Chair goal. Chair goal. Yeah. Just for new players and for events that has organ big group PvP, not everyone has 100 plus hours in the game to know, and there should be a warning of some sort. Yeah, there should be a warning to let people know that there is combat happening. Yeah, if they had something like, if there was a area that had PvP happening in it, that within a 20 kilometer sphere, if you came into it, it would say like warning combat zone. That'd be kind of cool. As well as I think that'd be like a cool design choice. Because like you could be doing something, you pop in, combat zone, you're freaking out, you don't see any reds, oh god, right? Like, panic. Croncy's comfy conversation corner. How have other games handled these issues? So the biggest thing, Shampastor, is like I said, it's the moderation tools. The fact that a lot of these issues get solved. About half the issues that I'm talking about get solved with moderation tools, where you can just mute people and then it's nowhere as much of an issue. The other half, it's just about teaching new players the game better, without having to use the guide system. Things need to be obvious sometimes. Like really need to be obvious, because people will miss them and then they'll complain. Promote SC as a PvP game with PvE aspects. I would argue it's a PvE game with PvP aspects, though. You know what I mean? But also, I think like you promote the game as a sandbox. That's what it is, right? But a lot of people don't really know what that means. But more promotion of what can happen to you is important. Best self-defense in any situation, including real life, is to run away. Someone pulls a knife on you, run like the wind. Hell yeah. If it's not leather armchair smoking jacket combo, then you're wrong. I'm not Croncy, but I've seen 3 scenarios happen long term with games that tried to be both PvE and PvP. They ended up making PvE only server. They became a PvP game. They dropped PvP from the game. I would love to see a game that actually achieved a balance. I think Eve does it really well. I think Eve does the PvE v PvP balance extraordinarily well. But they also tend to have a little bit of an issue with teaching new players that like players are out to get you. And I think it's that specifically that games don't go like, yes, there's a lot of PvE aspects of this game and it's really fun, but players will target you and you need to know the players will target you. Because if you don't, you're going to get mad, right? Because as you 100% would. That's what I'm saying. Like sometimes these reactions are warranted, but it's because they're not being taught the correct way. Or just what the game is. Some kind of red alert beacon distress signal that emanates from the nearby ships in combat, yeah. Stanton has com against PvP kind of with crime stat. Imagine Pyro that has no com PvP is going to be greater. Even an org can lock down a jump point. Exactly. That's sort of this thing of like a lot of these like issues. There's like two issues need to be solved now, because if they're not, when we increase server cap again, it's going to get even worse. When we go to Pyro, it's going to get even worse. You know, I think we're at the point where it's just barely not pushing people out of the game. But it will. I'm hoping that cargo changes will lead to actual piracy over what we have now. Threaten for cargo and release. People calling themselves pirates, vaping prospectors on Lyra with zero communication is kind of what we have now. And I understand why people call that griefing. I get why they call it griefing, but it's not. And they need to know that it's not. It is a thing you're allowed to do. It's you are not abusing any mechanics, right? Like having things that's just like, yeah, I just want to kill targets is a legitimate way to play this game. I don't have to be happy about it necessarily, but calling people griefers for doing that sort of thing, it just doesn't make sense to me. Sounds like big warning signs when people getting to Jump Town would be good. Yeah. How did all this griefer stuff even start? Well, so it's always been in the game. Griefing, trolling, all that sort of stuff's always been in the game, but it's now more pronounced. Because like we were saying, the server cap increase has meant that the small amount of people that would participate in trolling, griefing, like actual griefing, that sort of thing, are everywhere now. The servers are too large, so they're in every server. And it breeds more toxicity. When you have one person being toxic in chat, that teaches Bill to go be toxic in chat. And that teaches Andy to go be toxic in chat, and so on. And it starts compounding and it gets more toxic and more toxic. I think one thing, everyone always talks about like League of Legends chat, right? And the fact that it has like practically no moderation other than just like outright racism. And so... what ends up happening, those chats become really toxic because you see people being toxic. So that's the place to go to be toxic. If you have moderation tools, it's not as much of an issue. Star System will always be a game where PvP has consequences. If you want to combat someone, you better have good in-game reason, or you're going to face a hefty price and effort. Yeah. That's also an issue, I would say, is... some of these cases where people are doing criminal activity does get pushed to the side because prison is just nothing. It's just irrelevant. It's a 5-minute timeout, right? And there's a couple of things with that. Prison isn't fun yet. Like as in like some of the things that they've got in mind for prison. And do keep in mind there's stuff being worked on in prison right now on the progress tracker. Doesn't mean it's going to be released, but it's being worked on. What was I saying? Yeah, prison is just boring. When it has like a much nicer, like when you go to prison and you're like, I will actually participate in prison, then you can extend sentences because people aren't just either going and logging out or going in and doing two, like they committed 30 homicides, they've done 2 of the I can't remember what they're called, inmate opportunity things, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Imagine once the wider universe is released, big orgs really well, and anything else that full scale attack will get slapped down quick. Probably, but yeah, that's still why this needs to be fixed now, because otherwise it's going to be a terrible experience. SAS is not a user-friendly experience, full stop. There is also not enough to do to keep players entertained. They should have dynamic events and multiple types running all the time. Until Squadron 42 comes out and they actually put focus on the PU, nothing would change. I disagree with the there's not enough to do to keep players entertained. There's not enough to keep players entertained that have been playing for 4 years or over and aren't doing like large org activities. That's 100% a case. New players have so much to do. So I don't, like, I'm not saying that's not a problem because you obviously still want to keep older players entertained, but I'm not sure it's relevant for what we're talking about. That's all. Reporting combat zones is a good opportunity to roll out early level news van gameplay for their Herald and Reliant. True. But I don't think we'll get that for a very long time, though. Space Tarkov. Dogtown was born from griefing. Yeah, I don't know if it was born from griefing, but it was definitely born from, like, trolling. You know what I mean? Less griefing, but more, yeah. It sounds like the real world. What? The fact piracy PvPing people has 0 consequences, prison not a consequence, too easy to get around it. Yep. I can see why people see it's griefing is because Croncy the miner has to invest all of A to be able to play, whereas B can come along and ruin his day with 0 consequence reactions. No, so once again, so that's a reason to be you're allowed to be upset when that happens. Yeah, you've done a bunch of time mining, you're allowed to be upset. But it is so easy to avoid those combat situations 99% of the time. But new players are not being taught that, right? One example, one of the most interdicted places in Stanton is Crew 1 because it has the best refinery, right? It's basically the refinery center of Stanton. Arkel 1 as well is like is pretty pretty popular as well, but Crew 1 for sure. If I see anything in global chat about someone talking about like I'm doing mining, right? I'm starting to do a mining session, time to make some money. If I hear anyone in global chat talk anything about PvP happening, I investigate and I try to avoid Crew 1, or I approach it from an unlikely angle, right? I try to quantum in from an angle where I'm not going to get interdicted. Now, that is something that I've really learned from Eve, right? Eve PvP, you do that all the time. You see something, that there's combat happening somewhere, or you have these like funnels, and you hear the PvP is happening, so you avoid it, especially if like a trade runner or something. Yeah, new players just aren't learning that. So they don't just get mad, they quit. So. And I say you should be careful on what foot you step on today. It could belong to the arse you kiss tomorrow. I love that phrase. Dogtown was not born from griefing. It was born from the fact that they knew to trading and left a bug where drugs were valued massively over anything else. People took advantage of those traders to extort money out of them or lockdown, jump down to do the trading themselves. Yeah. There is no gain to pirating a cargo ship, is there? Killing players, this is really important. And like, if you disagree, it's fine, but I think it's a very important part of the game. Killing people in Star Citizen is fun. It will never not be fun. All right, and that's really important. It is always going to be a part of the game. You can punish players through crime stat, though right now, which once again, we're sort of more talking about right now it's an issue and it's going to compound. They're allowed to do it, and I think they should be allowed to do that. But to a new player, it's absolutely terrible. but because they don't know how to avoid it. I've been playing SE for 4 years. That I have a store open. I open up just to sell armors and guns for player, just to do something different. Love looting. Yeah, no, 100%. It's not like there's nothing that veteran players can do to still enjoy Star Citizen. But I think a lot of it comes down to they play the new content. The people that still enjoy Star Citizen have been playing for years. They play the new content when it comes out, holds them over for a week or two, and then they'll either stop playing, or they'll do org activities, or come up with unique content, right? Like selling shops, like what Salty Mike's org is doing right now with the gun running, which we've been doing some stuff of today. I think that's fantastic. One thing heavily lacking for attacking players is more monetary loss for the person doing the pirating. The defenders may lose millions worth of cargo, and if attacker gets killed, they go to prison for 10 minutes. Make insurance expedite in the vehicle go up every time, and add time on top of normal claim or some other type of monetary time loss. I agree. I do think stuff like that should happen. I always thought that they had sometimes mentioned insurance fraud in Star Citizen, and I would assume that players that are like pirates would be committing that more often, and so their insurance time claims and stuff would go up. But once again, I don't think it's a thing you could put in now to solve some of the issues we're having now. It's really just we've got to educate the players a bit more through many different avenues that we've already discussed. And the other thing that I said, moderation tools. I feel like utility ships could benefit greatly from improved ship scanning sensors. So the lack of warning really puts them at a disadvantage. Sure, I like that co-oping and escort security is a thing, but it shouldn't be the only thing. Yeah. No, I agree. And I feel like ship scanners is a thing that could happen soon. Maybe even like the patch post Pyro. Just because we got the scanning and radar updates last year, and it was really good. In terms of like, it was cool, but it still has like basically no practical use. So if they literally just, bring in some better scanners, that'd be great. The other thing keeping me in game right now is racing. I have a lot of fun with a lot of stuff. You know that, Maverick. The racing community, though, that does sort of go into what I was saying about how veteran players, they do something else. They do something org-related, or they do, like, whatever. Because of course they do. They're not going to do bunkers for 4 years in a row. And it's exactly the same when I'm playing any MMO, right? I don't want to do dailies for 4 years. Fuck that. What pulled me back to the game was that my Scorpius is flyable and it flies so amazing. And some of us, just like me, some of us are easily amused. Cryosite system itself is trash. It should be rep-based. I'm sort of saying that before. Orgs still not being part of the in-game experience is bad too. 100% agree. If a player constantly attacks everyone in Pirates, they should get negative rep with Crusader. If they get too bad, they start losing Hearst and area team, Microtech. Yeah, like ally reputation. If they attack Org members, they become enemies to all that Org, and the Org can kill them freely if they find them. I think it needs to be a bit more specific than that, but yes, if you know what I mean. Like, I think the triggers for that sort of stuff needs to be more specific, and probably not longer lasting. Like, take more for that to happen. But Org Wars, I think just straight up will be a thing. The question will be if the UEE cares. And Reputation's getting a lot of changes this year. Like, it's already had a fair few changes this year and whatnot. Orgs not being a part of the game has been a big issue. Like, actively part of the game. I've said this before. Right now, there is no point in being in an Org except for the fact that you just are a part of a community. And that doesn't have to be an Org. You can be a part of communities for tons of different stuff. An Org right now means literal nothing. Which sucks. Because everyone loves guild gameplay, you know? More often I take half your breaks. Bruh, sounds like me with WoW. Completely off topic, you should get high if you melee lots of drug boxes. True. After 1,000 hours in Destiny 2, they're lucky they get me on for my weeklies during a season event. Bro, that's crazy. That's nuts. Regards above, if they lose enough rep, they flat out become hostile with Crusader and other zones. Yeah, exactly. At the very least, until something happens. Because I think that's going to be weird to balance. You know what I mean? But we'll see. I don't know. It could be with NPC bad reputation, you have like a and like all bad reputation with NPC is that they slowly forget they hate you. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you've committed, like, so over the course of a week, every day you do 10 missions that just shit on Crusader, right? And so your reputation goes super bad. They become immediately hostile towards you. If you come within space, every 30 seconds they spawn some enemies, that sort of thing. And you do that for a week. And then over the course of maybe 2 weeks, that comes down like a lot to the point where you can at least be in Crusader space. Because otherwise, yeah, I think it'll be terrible for balance-wise. It'd be a bad experience if you get your character... Because it'd happen. You would get your character in an accidental position where you can't do anything. You know? You're locked out of the game. But otherwise, I do agree. When there's multiple systems, keeping your rep is really hard. Right now, rep is really weird. It's affinity falls way too slow, I feel. But, you know, that's a balance thing. PvPers are effectively serial killers in SC. This is not what anyone wants. If you go around randomly killing people in PvPing, blues will take them out because bounty, reds will take them out because they don't want the blues sniffing around in their territory. Yeah, once again, 100%. It's just, as long as it's allowed. I'm not saying there shouldn't be consequences, but they should be specifically in-game consequences. And it's, once again, where my point is that players just say, you shouldn't be allowed to do this ever. You shouldn't be allowed to kill me if I don't want to do PvP. And it's just, I know that like the vast majority of you in here don't think that. But it's, once again, it's a thing that's coming up way more often, especially with the higher server caps. Should do this once a month. I mean, I'm enjoying this. You guys enjoying this? The topic is sort of specific-ish, and it's I don't know. I definitely am happy that I did it this way instead of just recording a video. And like I said, in future, once what's it called? Once Twitch guest star comes out, I could invite people from chat and actually like talk with them. It'd be cool. You can shoot at security that's opposite that faction and you get your rep back. Yeah, true. Yeah, like maybe they just, I guess, yeah, they like start liking you because you start killing Ninetales and they're like, oh, you're doing okay. As long as there's a way to get it back that's not insanely hard, is the main thing. Just because they will 100%, I'm calling it now, someone wants to clip it. If they do what we just said, where you can lose reputation with everyone and it doesn't naturally come back, someone will get locked out of the game. And of course, they're not going to play anymore. You're going to have negative reputation with everyone by accident or slightly on purpose, but like, you know, and that's just a bad experience. There was a game you could do that. I think it was Classic WoW. You could get like negative rep with everyone. And then if you go into any city, they would attack you. It might be Classic WoW. I don't remember. When I say Classic WoW, I mean like OG WoW, not Classic WoW. Some game was like that. Anyway. That's the thing. We will always go back to 0 consequences for their actions until CRG actually gets stuff past tier 0, tier 1. 2 to 4 years to move from tier 0, tier 1, tier 2. We'll never see change. No, we will never see change from that, but that's not really where my complaint lies. Because I know that that's a thing that they want to change, and that doesn't necessarily need to change right now. Whereas community response to PvP, I think, can change now. Through like a couple of different methods. Will it work? Probably not, but we got to do something, you know. Oh my god, I caught up to chat. Shit, I didn't expect that. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, it's not a massive issue. It's not going to get me to stop playing the game or anything like that. But I mean, most of you guys know me. I am never negative about Star Citizen. And even here, I'm not really negative about Star Citizen. I just have some concerns with the community. And like, I don't want to see the community become bad. Because SC is one of the best communities I've ever played in. You know, like the amount of help you get has been insane, but it's getting bad, and it will get worse if we don't find some way to fix some of these things. Maybe CRG can license from EA PvP. It's in the game. Yeah, but Mikhail, once again, there are ways of avoiding it. Right? And the new players don't know the ways of avoiding it. So they assume that any PvP that happens to them... Like, I'm not talking about... Like, yeah, I'm not talking about Billy being, like, spawn camped at Grimhex for 2 hours. Although, I sort of am. Like, there are ways to avoid these that new players never get taught. Or if they do get taught, they get taught too late. TED Talk Pog. So, I mean, we just talked for like an hour. Anyone got any other last minute points? Any other I do have one more concern with the community, actually. I did forget one, and I did write this when I was doing the script because I was going to do this as a video. Ship Showdown starts today. This one's actually going to make people mad. Yeah, see you in Melbourne? Yeah, cheers, Christian. Ship Showdown starts today, and people... It is about to get really, really bad for the next month and a half. Spectrum, Reddit, Twitter, it's all about to get really bad. I want to make it perfectly clear. You can vote for whatever you want. 100%. You want to vote for a meme? You go for it. We did have a conversation yesterday. I'm not sure there are actually any memes that are actually memey. Except for the Color Steel, kind of. You want to vote for a meme, you do it. You want to vote for a Gladius, you want to vote for a Carrick, you want to vote for the PTV again, you do it. Right? You should vote for the mole. But the biggest thing is, and I think this happens honestly anytime you have almost like a team sports aspect, because that's kind of what this is. People do divide into teams. Is it gets so bad. It gets so toxic. But the worst part of it is I have already, like, it literally hasn't started yet. It starts in like an hour or two, and we don't even start with voting. And people are already complaining either, why should I bother voting in the Ship Showdown? I really like the Ship Showdown, but a meme's just going to win, so I don't care. Or people are just like completely disenfranchised with the entire Ship Showdown. And it makes no sense to me. It is a community event where your ship gets a skin. Who cares? Vote for it because you think that it's cool. It's like the amount of people last year were like, oh, but you know, the Carrick should have won. Well, it didn't. So too bad. Right? Like, God damn it. The ship does get a sail as well. That is like a half relevant thing, but I don't think it matters. I just don't. But you should vote for the mole. If you don't vote for the mole, you're banned. As well as like the thing of like people going, oh, you know, why should I bother voting in it if a meme ship's just going to win? You know, that's how people lose like elections constantly. Getting a little bit political, but people constantly lose elections because large portions of like a country or like a state or whatever the relevant election thing is happens. Is people go like, well, why should I bother? It's like, yeah, cool. That's like 20% of all like eligible voters. You should probably vote. You know? Yeah, turnout is king in elections. Yeah, also, yeah, it doesn't matter about like your one ship winning. Really, it's the top 4. If your ship makes it into the top 4, they win. You get the cool skin and everything. But I don't know, it's weird that people take it so seriously when like it's so obviously not a serious thing. Robert promised me Carrick if I voted the P52. Or crack. I know it's better, Carrick or crack. Even when there's massive turnout, nothing changes. It's not true. Cool. I think that's it. I think that's about it. Should we get back to gun running? Play some Star Citizen, seeing as we're in the Star Citizen category and not the just chatting category. Where's my drink? I've had like no on my cordial. Oh. Yeah, Ship Showdown starts in like the next couple of hours. But the first portion of Ship Showdown is you make Twitter posts or Spectrum posts like about your ship that you want to vote for, basically. And then the top 16 of those go into the thing in like a couple weeks. Mule gonna take it? Nah, Mole's gonna take it. Mole number 1, hashtag Team Mole. It says it, you can't read it, but it says Mole for Ship Showdown number 1. Cool, sweet. Well, I hope if you guys did disagree with anything that I said, like 100%, that's fine. If I contradicted myself at any point, 100%, that's fine. I'll do that. Sometimes that happens. But it was very, very cool having that little chat. We'll probably do these every now and then. Have a little bit of a Croncy's Corner and talk something about the game and interact with chat and stuff and just chill for a bit. Crack and Carrick are both equally applicable. The dry whiteboard, just take the top of the... First portion of Ship Showdown is crap. They should just have a vote option for all the ships and go from there. Feels super rigged as to what CIG allows into top 16. I mean, they're allowing everything though, Mikhail. The only one that I would ever say that they should actively like not let in is the Saber Raven. Because that feels like a bit of a cop-out. Just make it the Saber. Cool. Alright, easy. Let's do some gun running, chat. Shall we?